putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here, author of Race Pimping, the multi-trillion-dollar business of liberalism. And let me tell you, you're watching liberalism unfold in ways that I don't think most people would have predicted. If Donald Trump did inherit a mess from Barack Obama, and he certainly did, one of the biggest messes he inherited was the crime rate. I talked earlier about the con game. And I quoted Thomas Sowell, who said, the welfare state is the oldest con game in the world. First, you take people's money quietly, then you give it back to them flamboyantly. And let me tell you, all that money that's been taken from you quietly and given back flamboyantly, and the part that they kept, what's it doing? Is it solving the nation's problems? I've said you could solve problems very easily. I mentioned the professors molesting kids. Here's a good example. If you were to put out an edict at every college and university that says, if you engage in any type of sexual relationship with a student, you are fired from the university and you will lose tenure. You can't even protect the tenured professor. If you are a student who engages in any type of malfeasance with a professor, you will be dismissed from the school and still be required to pay whatever funds and things that you've been given. What do you think would happen? I think students would see their professors a little differently, and professors would see the students a little differently. Why doesn't academia do this? And why wouldn't you do it when somebody has the kind of power that they have over your child's future? Couldn't they be compelled to? I mean, if you were a lecherous professor and said, I think you're a hot little co-ed, and the only way you're going to get out of my class with a grade that you want is by, letting me grab you by the whatevers, then, I mean, if I have that kind of power over you and I have tenure, do you think I might occasionally use it? But what if I knew that it could ruin my career? There you go. But do they implement these kind of rules? And if they are they enforced? I talked about a couple of movies. So how do you get away with murder? The woman, the attorney, and the whole premise of the story is based on her husband does nothing except have sex with co-eds. And she's a high-powered black female attorney. Probably a feminist. And she doesn't say a word. I talked about, maybe I did, I don't know if I did or not, but the scene in The Godfather where the movie producer says, there's no way that so-and-so gets that role. And he ends up with a horse head in his on his bed. The guy bragged openly, I groomed this girl. We spent millions of dollars on her, and she was a great piece of you-know-what. And I should know. I've had it all over the world. He admits in Hollywood, that's what we do. And Francis Ford Coppola puts it in the film. The people that made the movie that got Viola Davis an Emmy or whatever she won, put it in the film, put it in the TV show. Yeah, so what professors, 50-year-old men are having sex with 18-year-old girls. Who cares? They care when it's Judge Roy Moore. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about the con job of solving crime in the black community, of helping people. 38 days left in the year when I was reading this article. The murder count of St. Louis reached 188, the same number for all of 2016. So they got a month and something left, and they're going to hurdle past the number of killings in St. Louis. Now, Chicago's murder rate's going down. We'll talk about that in just a second. But they've jumped the murder rate in St. Louis, and it's a very simple reason as to why. They ushered in lawlessness under Barack Obama. The recent violence, they say, has kept detectives busy. Adolphus Pruitt, president of the St. Louis NAACP, said the homicide rate crisis is alarming. Looks like we're going to exceed the numbers from last year, Pruitt said. It's extremely troubling. 3 reported homicides on Thanksgiving pushed the city's murder rate to 188. I want to put this in perspective. The city of St. Louis has 318, give or take, 1,000 people. And they have 188 murders. the city of Chicago has what? 6, 7, 8 million people, and they have 629 murders. So the city of Chicago is 20 times the size, the city of St. Louis. And the city of St. Louis has, so let me put this in perspective. Let's just round it up to 200. That means that at the rate that the population of Chicago, the city of St. Louis would have 4,000 murders. So forget Chicago, and it's bad enough. Look at St. Louis. Look at what happens when you let a president who comes into there and says, hey, black people, it's a free-for-all. You don't need to worry about the police. You guys remember in Ferguson when the police watched as looters broke into a liquor store and looted it and did nothing, stood by and watched? My goodness. Here's what's interesting about Chicago's weekend murder rates. So these are actual stories. 3 headlines when I looked this up. Sunday night, we didn't get to it till today, but that's okay. CBS, Chicago, 5 dead. CBS Chicago, 5 dead, 24 wounded. WLS TV, 6 dead, 30 wounded. Before either of those had even reported their 5 and 6 dead, NBC Chicago reported 7 dead, 36 wounded. They can't even get it right themselves. One says 5 dead, the other says 6 dead, the other says 7 dead. One says 24 wounded, the other says 30 wounded, and the other says 36 wounded. Which is it? So here's the actual numbers from a site called, well, I won't worry about the site. 629 homicides in Chicago. A person is shot in Chicago every 2 hours and 23 minutes. A person is murdered in Chicago every 12 hours and 35 minutes. Now, here's what happened with NBC, and they talked about the 7 dead. And I want to just have you focus for a second on the people. So I'm going to give you a little story about them, and I want you to look at the commonality between these people as you contemplate that every 2 hours, give or take, 2 hours and 30 minutes, just say 2 hours, somebody gets shot in Chicago. And every 12 hours, twice a day, somebody is killed. Now, here's what the article says. A second deadly shooting happened just before 1:30 a.m. Friday. A 27-year-old man was shot and killed during an attempted robbery in the 7500 block of St. Lawrence. The man, who was sitting in a car, refused to cooperate when a man demanded money from him. He was shot under the left armpit, later pronounced dead. So a guy gets robbed. Now, they're not going to tell you that it was a black guy being killed by another black guy. But if you know where the area is that we're talking about, that's what it was. Hours later, I'm giving you some hints. 22-year-old man was fatally shot in the 10,000 block of South Avenue M. Few details have been released on what happened, but police say the man was shot in his body, was treated at the scene in critical condition, got pronounced dead. All right. Just after 5 p.m. Friday, a 23-year-old man was shot and killed while standing in the 1500 block of South Ridgeway. Police said the man was standing on the block when another man walked up to him and shot him in the head. He was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital and pronounced dead. Do I really need to break out the ethnicity of these fellas? About 3 hours later, a 22-year-old man was shot multiple times in the 6400 block of South Calumet. He was pronounced dead at Northwestern Hospital. Another fatality occurred on Sunday morning in a 200 block of North Lockwood, according to police. An 18-year-old man was killed when another man walked up to him and shot him multiple times. He was later pronounced dead at Loretto Hospital. You see the commonality? Did you guys catch it? Did you catch it? Yeah. Well, okay. You don't know the area, so you probably don't know that it was mostly going to be South and East Chicago. Okay, I get that. But what do you think? Did you catch what? Okay, they're all roughly the same age. 18-year-old guy, 22-year-old guy, 23-year-old guy, 22-year-old guy, 27-year-old guy, 24-year-old guy. Gunned down. People walking up to them, pow, shooting him multiple times, whatever. And outside of the robbery, which, what could the guy have had that the so-called brother, he's going to I ain't going to mess with my other brother. What could he have had on him that was worth his life? Now, here's what I would say to the guy who got shot. Give it up. Just look. Okay, man, look. Let me get my wallet. Here it is. Take it. I don't want to know who you are. Go with God. Have a happy Christmas. But he shouldn't have to, should he? Black guys killing black guys, young black guys killing black guys, and the left wants you to believe, don't profile.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.